Today's episode of Literally is sponsored by Lowe's. I'm with, I gotta bow down to the man.
Thank you.
The man who created the whole thing. I mean, how do you feel that I have a podcast? You're like, you fucking interloper. Is it like me when I look at Zac Efron?
Sure. I think I don't have any resentment towards you, Rob. I mean, everyone's got to do what they got to do to survive.
Right. Yeah. Fuck it. You got to grind, man.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
And also, I always knew from the beginning that, this was going to be a relatively, if not totally, democratic medium. I mean, it doesn't take much for anyone to do one of these. And if you want to give it a go, you give it a go. And everybody brings their own thing to it. I have to say that what I brought to it is probably, better than what you're doing. But I don't mean that in a negative way.
No, I mean, listen, I tell you what, though, I do not put people with class 5 cat allergies at risk. I'm way more, dude, your cat setup is next level.
Well, I mean, you didn't have an allergy though, did you?
No, I don't. Otherwise, believe me, I wouldn't have come to your house. I was like, you were one of the first podcasts I ever went on, and they're like, no, you go to his house. I'm like, wait, what? What? Like, they're like, I'll never forget. They're like, Rob, Barack Obama went to his house.
Yeah. Well, it was a weird time though, because when you did it, I had not set up this outdoor space yet because they were working on the building. So you were literally upstairs in my house. There was like a period there where I set up in the office room in my house, and it was kind of like, it was really kind of a makeshift situation. So yeah, you were literally in the house. There was only a few people that did that. I think you and Letterman, David Lee Roth, I remember, but in the house.
Yeah, I thought like this is, there could be an axe murder. It was very.
Well, I mean, that's extreme. I mean, there were things that could go wrong, but I think we were safe.
We were safe, and it was. Yeah. What is your diagnosis of the current state of podcasting?
Well, look, for me, at the beginning, when I think about why I got into it, it was never a business. It was something that was keeping me afloat, emotionally, psychologically. I think not so much professionally, but just staying engaged. It was at a low point in my life. So, what I was bringing to it, or what I sort of, how I developed my thing was like an earnest and very sort of desperate need to connect with people in my world. And I think that provided something of a template for some people. And then what happened very quickly was that everybody assumed that it was easy. And it's not. And there's no telling why somebody resonates on these mics. Like with someone like you, when you've been around a long time and you bring a certain amount of celebrity to it, and people know you already, that's something. But the current state of it is there's too many people just blathering on into the ether. And it's made quite a bit of a kind of a glut. Right. So I do think still that people can surface and find their place. But I think because everyone thought it was easy, that, there's just, people at some point have to shut up, Rob.
They do. It's like people who open restaurants because they love food.
Sure. Or they think it's going to be fun.
Yeah. I mean, what is fun is connecting. That is the fun part.
That's totally the fun part.
That's the only reason.
Did you ever open a restaurant?
No, I love food, but I know enough to know that I don't know anything about a restaurant.
So no one, how many people have approached you in your celebrity life and like, hey, you want to be part of this on the ground floor? It's going to be a hot steakhouse.
I'll never forget the Mulholland Cafe. By the way, I think is that the greatest name? And it was like, Patrick Swayze is the lead investor. I'm like, the culinary genius, Patrick Swayze? I'm in.
I'm in. I am in.
I am so in. Yeah, you're right. But I love what you love about doing this, because first of all, as you know, the long form interview had been dead for a long time. It's not anymore because everybody's doing a podcast. But, it used to be you do the Playboy interview in Playboy, or
right.
There were a couple of like, Tom Snyder way, way, way back in the day, or there were, Dick Cavett and people like that. But
Well,
then
even those were still limited to television time, right?
yes,
I knew the guy. I interviewed the guy that used to do all those old Playboy profiles, those Playboy interviews.
really,
And now I'm like, oh, the poor guy. I'm spacing his name, but he did a ton of them, and he would spend weeks. Like, he'd go live with Marlon Brando. He'd go to the island. He was, he would get into these people's lives for days and weeks just to get that one interview that showed up in Playboy. But I think if I'm thinking of like somebody who did this, it was probably Studs Terkel, who did a lot of, and they're available on.
Oh, they're great. His collection
great.
of interviews. By the way, you know what they're really great for? As an actor, I've used it as a tool to build characters because he's talking to amazing, amazing characters.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, but you're right. It was dead for a while, but it was always, to me, what was kind of interesting is that this medium provides you the time. Some people take way too much of it. I mean, I think an hour is good.
Oh,
3 is a bit much.
I think, yeah, it's like, well, it can be what it wants to be. And if you're
I was very excited when people started doing full radio theater type of productions, like, to be part of something at the beginning. And I wasn't the first podcaster. And there's people that'll argue that there were podcasts long before some of the more popular ones, but they didn't really go out anywhere. But I was definitely part of the popularization of the medium. But when people really started to do like full radio theater stuff or crime stuff, like, it really did become an amazing outlet for very creative people in the audio space. I don't know. I never did video and it was a benefit because, people would come over and they wouldn't have to think about that. They didn't have to bring makeup people and, so it was very easy to disarm them,
Well, it's funny, even when I started 4 years ago, whatever,
Yeah.
they were like, I was like, I need to know about the blocking and tackling of this business, like with the nuts and bolts of how to do it. They're like, well, it's really, I said, should we have video? And they're like, no, because then, a lot of the female stars.
That's right.
And now, of course, you have to have video.
Right.
And now we're back to like, I'm having a bad hair day, hence the hat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got to do what you got to do. I think audio provides a more intimate experience for people taking it in, to be honest with you. And I think that you have a little more control over stuff. But I do still think that audio is the most intimate medium you can really work in.
Let me ask you this, because here's the other thing. They're like, you got to have everybody in studio with you because those are the ones that index. I'm like, but it's two cameras cutting to each other. You're
right.
like, I don't understand. How do they really? I don't get it. And it's ideal if you were able to do it. You were like, you're coming here, you're not doing it. Rogan does the same thing, but like, I'm all over the world. I'm working on the only way I can do this is
this way,
is to be remote a lot of the time.
I understand that. And we, I believe it's true that it's better if you're face to face with the person, because moments can happen that, transcend kind of mediated interaction. Like when you're on a screen, there's a lack of pause. There's sort of an immediate reaction that becomes readable to the people in the room and then felt by the people outside the room. I'm a big supporter of the in-person interview, and the only time we didn't do that was during COVID, and we really had to figure out a way to make it as intimate as possible. But it worked out. I definitely got some interviews I wouldn't have gotten otherwise during that time. But look, you got to do what you got to do. And I think you can still get a pretty good interview like this.
Well, that remains to be seen. But
well, I mean,
but I think so far, I think it's going well.
It's easier to get distracted like this.
Well, it is. I'm sorry. Hang on just one second.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. Me too. I'm just going to go to the bathroom. Try to keep it going.
Yeah. I'm just going to open some water. But now, I mean, you have a new, we'll get into all the new stuff you have going. I want to talk about Stick, by the way, because I don't know if you see the shirt I have on is Augusta National. I'm a huge golf fan. Owen Wilson, I love him. He's great.
Yeah. Have you worked with him?
No, I just have run into him a couple times, and he's always been just hilarious and smart and great.
Sweet guy.
Yeah, and he's a real golfer.
Yeah, he definitely locked into it more. He comes from a golf family.
I
Like his
know.
brothers are big golfers.
Oh, that's right. It's Luke who's the real
Luke
golfer.
and the older brother, I think, what's his name? Andrew, maybe? Yeah, the two other brothers are real golfers, and his old man was a golfer. And he was okay at it, but he didn't lock in heavy until he got this gig. And yeah, he's pretty good. I mean, it was funny because any second of downtime on set, and we were on golf courses all the time,
Ugh.
he was just out hitting.
Oh my
just
God.
out doing it.
What a dream.
Yeah, you would love it. Me, like I didn't know anything about golf going in.
Nothing.
Yeah, there you go. There's the big story. That's the scoop. Maron doesn't know anything about golf, and he's in a golf show.
Maron, not a method actor. You did not go on tour for 6 months.
Well, I
caddy.
did do, it was interesting, Rob, is that, they really were looking for a guy who was like sensitive, but grumpy. And I thought like, well, I'll have to really kind of dig deep for that.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I have to figure out where that's going to come from in me.
Yeah.
But I think the relationship was very specific because I said to them, I said, look, I get golf, I can watch it. I do not know the nuances of golf. I don't play golf. But I have friends who play, and over the years, I've grown to appreciate why it's compelling and why people love it. But I don't know how to play golf, so you might want to go find another actor. And they were like, you don't need to. And you don't need to know. And I'm like, but it'd probably be helpful, so maybe go find somebody else. So, but they kept coming.
And they were like, okay, grumpy, check.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They were like, this is the guy. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know how that is true. But the truth is that relationship between a caddy and a golfer is fundamentally some sort of strange marriage. It's a very sort of intentionally codependent dynamic.
Yep.
You're in service of, it's a group effort, but you are in service of the golfer, and you are, his higher self in a way on some level, or at least a one that checks his, like if there's a question, it's, you got to try to get on the same page and find a middle way.
Caddies make it. Whenever you get a caddy that has that thing, that personality, that sort of hoarse whisperer, Yoda speak with great stories.
Yeah.
It elevates the experience to a whole other level.
Yeah. And I definitely did some research in that. And I definitely learned the language of golf and learned how to understand the game. But I knew fundamentally what this was about a couple of guys who have been through some very hard times together and individually. There was a lot of weight to the emotional dynamic between these guys. They'd both had sort of sadness and tragedy in their life, and they've kind of weathered it as a friendship because they hadn't been on the course together professionally for 20 years because Price, Owen's character, had a very sort of public and dramatic meltdown and lost his card and kind of went into a spiral and gave up on life in a lot of ways. And I kind of went into the woods and kind of lived my life. And then the only thing that was really holding us together outside of friendship is if occasionally Price would need money and we'd go do this golf hustle at bars where I'd, call him out and, put on this whole grift of this whole con job of defying him to take a putt and get bets on it, knowing he would blow it. But it was really about a friendship that had weathered a lot and a deep sort of love for each other that was kind of, it wasn't fragile, but it had definitely taken some hits,
I'm so down for this. I cannot wait to
I think you'll love it.
I'm going to love it. Already I can tell I'm going to love it. And so having shot on golf courses as you did, it's kind of, isn't it the thing where you could only shoot on Mondays and that kind of stuff because it's closed? Or did you have one that was, how did you shoot the golf? Because usually it's really hard.
I think they did a really good job with it. So like, I'm not privy to how they pulled it off because as a supporting character, you're mostly just trying to figure out how not to go crazy in your trailer. But,
that's really true.
But we were in Vancouver and we shot on several different courses and we were not beholden to that I knew of to whether it was open or it wasn't open. They were obviously paying to play. There were time zones we could work in, and some other on a couple of courses. I think another part of the course may have been open, but we were at many different places because we had to create the illusion, that we started in Indiana and then we're going across the country.
Oh.
So we had to do different courses.
Yeah.
And the way they shot the golf, it was pretty interesting because, Owen doesn't have to play much, if any, in the show, but the kid, has to. That was my biggest question going into it. Is like, where are you going to find a kid that can play this well? I mean, this kid's supposed to be a prodigy.
Yeah, and he's 17 supposedly.
Yeah,
right?
And he's a great actor, that Peter. He's great. And what they did was they had pro golf consultants there, and they had real pros there. They found a guy up there that was, Peter's size and was like an amazing golfer. And so in a lot of it, I think you're not going to notice it when you watch it. They did that, the green dots on the face so they could put Peter's face on his face. But I think in form, I think Peter got very good at it. But I think when it comes down to, because you got to figure that this show is going to appeal to golfers and they're going to know if it's bullshit, because that's all they think about is swing.
It's all we think about. I've become that guy, that horrible, like in between any free moment, I'm fake swinging while I'm waiting while I'm waiting for my wife to finish shopping somewhere and I'm pulling my hair out. I'm just working on my takeaway or something. Which I always thought was so lame.
But does it bring you in that moment though? I mean, because I think the benefit of golf, once you lock into it, is sort of a spiritual endeavor. Like even when you're just sitting there waiting for your wife and you're kind of, focusing on your hands and your swing, do you go into that Zen place?
Yes, 100%. That's why I hate practicing anything. I love practicing golf. I could be, who I run into all the time, and you meet great people, is Jimmy Connors.
Oh, wow.
Jimmy Connors and I are members of the same place, and he's there every day just like me. And I said, what is it? How do you and why do you practice so much? He goes, I just love it. I just shut everything out. It's just Zen. It's just me, and it doesn't feel like practice. It just feels like a meditation.
So it's kind of challenging yourself, and you're not really competing other than relative to your own sort of score, right?
Right.
And your own sort of sense of improvement. And I guess that it's pretty easy with golf to let go of the idea that you're ever going to be really that good.
Yes. Well, what's the thing they say in the recovery program? It's the we may one day drink as normal people, whatever it is. Like,
yeah.
But this golf says we have the delusion that we may one day golf as professionals, and we will not.
Do you have that?
Yes, I do. I don't. Not that I'm going to be a professional, but I'm like.
But you'll have game. You'll be able to.
Oh, I just want to get better and better and better and better. I'm like, and I think that I should be playing like people who play professionally. Like,
right.
Like I'll go, how come I can't make this shot? Well, they hit thousands of balls a day, and you're an actor, and you have other things you're doing. You have a wife and kids.
That's the weird thing about like being on the set, and TaylorMade sent me a full set of clubs and balls, and they're like, get going. So I'm ready to go.
So you haven't really taken that leap yet?
I haven't.
Well,
I will. Relax. Yeah, I gotta get someone. I gotta go. Like, you're Rob,
dude, you're in recovery. This is
I know.
It's the most addicting. You chase the Jones, man.
I know, but I totally understand that you have that one amazing shot, and then for the rest of your life, you try to get that back. I understand the addiction element of it.
Yes.
I just don't know, as me, if I have the patience to be bad for as long as I will be bad.
Right. That's a very astute, very astute.
You don't need any skill set to do some blow.
That's fair. God knows.
or take a drink or whatever.
No.
And, I'm a comic by trade. When you do bad pretty quickly. And, the path to making it better is retooling the joke. But the idea, like, I get frustrated pretty easy. I don't have the patience. And I know that golf may give me the gift of that.
Yes.
And maybe that's true. I'm ready to go. I have to be honest. And in telling you that what stops me from doing almost anything is the fact that, like, if I want to start playing golf, here are the obstacles. Oh, what? Then I got to drive to the place. And what? And do I have to pay to get in? How far is it? Is there parking? Like, the obstacles I set up for myself before I get a ball on the tee are all sort of dumb, practical things that have to do with making the time.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong about that. Tell me about the new special. It's August, HBO, right?
August 1st. Well, yeah.
So
I mean, this was
you have like 15. Is this your 15th?
I think this is my 6th televised special, and I've done a couple of half-hour ones and about 4 or 5 albums. This is my 2nd special with HBO. I think I did 3 with Netflix, and then 1 with Epix, which I don't even know if it exists anymore. But HBO is great.
You did that one with the CW back in the day.
CW, that was a big one. Yeah, the big, right at the beginning when I was doing clean comedy. That never happened.
Yeah.
This new special, Rob, I think is pretty, like, the last few I've done, I think are as good as I can be. Like, that's one thing. That's another thing. Like with acting, and I'm sure you feel this to some degree, that whatever your chosen profession is, if it's not golf, is that you do reach a point where you have complete control over your particular talent and what you can do.
Yes.
And, as you get older, there's a lot to be, it's a good feeling to do something that you've worked your whole life at, and then walk away from it going like, well, that was pretty much the best I could do. At this point, and in terms of everything I've been through and getting to this place, I'm operating at my full capacity.
What do you think? I'm so interested in this. Do you feel, was there an aha moment for you? Was it, do you feel like you gradually got there, or were there stages in it?
Well, look, with acting, like, I know, like, to go back to that, because I come to acting much later. It was not, when I was starting out as a comic, the idea was that you would eventually, get a show built around you. And back in the 90s, they were throwing money around to develop comics because they saw them a certain way. We had a built-in voice, and you get a few bucks, and they set you up with some writers, and you try to build a show around what they think your personality is, because that was the model.
Yep.
I think from Roseanne and Ray and Brett Butler and
Drew Carey,
on
and on.
Sure. Yeah. But so I had a few of those deals early on, but I was never the guy they thought I was, and I'm not sure I knew who I was. But for acting, just to explore the difference, it was something I always wanted to do. I trained a little bit in college and here and there, and I did a small part in Almost Famous for Cameron Crowe, and I thought I was going to take off from there, but nothing really happened. I didn't have what it took to deal with the rejection of going in on these auditions for TV shows with bad jokes. I knew there were just a whole bunch of guys who could do it much better than me because they knew the game. I did not. So with acting, where I'm at now in comparison to comedy, is that I have to figure out whether or not every time I take a job as an actor, it really is about, like, do I even like doing this? Is that odd? I mean, it's something you want to do, and I think I have a innate ability to be present and listen. And and over time, having done my own show on IFC for 4 years, I knew that I would learn how to be on set. I knew that I would suck for a couple seasons, but no one was watching it really, so it was really a training ground. And now I've done a couple of bigger roles, and I get it, and now I have to figure out a way to really sort of make it interesting and engage in whatever that craft is that makes it satisfying versus, how much time you're waiting around for them to set up who the fuck even knows what.
Yes. Well, that's the old thing of I don't get paid to act, I get paid to wait. That's really
and it's weird. I don't even know. I mean, you've been doing it your whole life. Does it always get to a point where you're in the trailer and you eventually go, what are they even doing?
It's always that way. I mean, and that's why you pick up the ukulele or, whatever the fuck you're, I mean, that's why actors always drink.
Yeah.
Sit there.
Yeah. I don't know how those guys, when you hear those stories about dudes who acted like, after 3-day benders and stuff, I imagine you had a little of that in your life, but how do you even function? Is it that much of a con job that you can go out there shit-faced and still pull off the scene?
Well, some people it helps them get honest,
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
right? And that's
It
and that
relaxes something.
relaxes something. It
Yeah.
it gets honest. Okay, the Springsteen movie. I'm a huge Springsteen fan. You're in
Oh,
it.
that was funny. Okay, so going back, I'll come around to that. So with acting, I'm still in a learning curve, right? With stand up, it's something. The reason I love it, and the reason that it is the right form for me, is that I'm not sure I ever got into it to be an entertainer. I really thought that I had something to say, and I wanted to be heard, and I wanted to be seen, and I wanted to figure out who I was, in this particular uh, craft, stand up. And at the point I'm at now, like I have enough control over it and enough fearlessness that like I can start working within it. Like I spent about a year and a half working on the material that's going to be in the special. Like I toured it, I built it, I finessed it. And over time, the reason that I can see the arc of growth is that, once you learn how to do something, how do you keep it interesting for yourself and challenge the audience to a certain degree with what you're doing? And I'm at this point now, about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it was late in the career, where, I think you spend a lot of time as a stand-up pretending to be fearless, pretending like you're not afraid. So about 80% of your energy goes into acting like, this is no problem. And then at some point it just goes away because part of you lives up there. You start to get to a point where you get on stage and you're like, well, this is where I live. I have complete control of this thing, and I got the chops. I'm good at it. I got the stuff.
Yep.
And then once you get to that place, then you can really start to craft differently. Like there was a period where, I started to really kind of, like when I do a special, usually about a month before, I've got about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes of material that I got to make into an hour. So then you start to kind of craft it and pull stuff out and tighten stuff up and put in callbacks and figure out new things. And I try to leave it fluid enough to where the week leading up to the special, things still kind of happen. Like a few days before I taped it, I got 2 or 3 new things that tied things together. And because they're new, the night of the taping, it livens up the whole set because there's a risk element to it outside of just doing it.
Right.
But my confidence and control in my chosen field, which is stand up, is at a pretty high level now. But that comes from almost 40 years of doing it.
You say you realize you live there. You do the math of the hours.
Yeah.
And you spent X amount of your life literally living on that stage.
Sure. But it is a great feeling to be at the top of your game in that you earned it, you put the work in, and now this is the payoff, is that, I can do this and I can make it interesting and I can challenge myself and doing new jokes, doing things that are different than other people. And it is actually rewarding.
Well, it's also that thing of, by the way, there's nothing worse than actors on publicity tours. But when you listen to like the questions that they get asked.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Robert De Niro? Were you nervous?
Sure.
Again, I'm like, I'd be like, why?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like if I asked you, ooh, you were on a bill with Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Were you nervous? My guess is you'd be like, no.
Well, I'm not nervous about being on the bill with them. Yeah. The thing that never leaves me as a comic is that, look, when I go do theaters, it's my audience or whatever. And they're there to see me. No one's just sort of like, what's going on at this theater? Let's go in,
Of course. Yeah.
So they're ready. But when you do the workout rooms, like if I go to the Comedy Store, which I still go to, if I'm in town, I'm there 2 or 3 nights a week. I'm going tonight. You're still on a bill with, 20 other people. Everyone's doing 15-minute sets. And there still is the element, no matter how good you are, at least for me, whoever you're following, might cause you a little bit of problems. You know what I mean? But
you're not nervous about it. You're competitive about it. That's different.
Well, it's more of an angling. It's sort of like, all right, well, he's gonna make a mess of this place, if he kills, or if he's a celebrity bigger than me, and I've got to figure out how to get them into my groove as quickly as possible. And you learn early on, you can't just jump into their energy. You're better off just stopping the show in its tracks and building from there. So there's an angle to it. It's not nervous. It's just like, you don't want it to be difficult. It's like, I have 15 minutes. I wanted to work on some new stuff, but now I have to get them after Chappelle has just destroyed the place.
Yes.
Which doesn't happen. Chappelle's a bad example because usually what Chappelle will do, and I'm like, I've been in this long enough to do this. Like, there's always the element when you do a comedy club, a local comedy club, that you're going to get bumped because some big star wants to go on stage. And Chappelle notoriously would go on stage for hours, in a 15-minute spot because he didn't give a fuck. And so, like, if he was coming, I would either say to him or whoever is running the room, I'm like, I'm not waiting until he's done. So you're going to let me go on before you, or I'm going to leave.
Right.
Now, you generally at this point in my career, there is some respect for me. Like, I've done this to Rock. Rock will come in and I'm like, oh man, when are you going on? And he's like, I'll wait till you're done. I'm like, thank you. So I have no patience for being bumped. But to speak to the point, it's not fear. It's just sort of like, I just wanted to have an easy go of it. But when you're in the trenches and you're just doing 15-minute sets, like recently, this is hilarious. Leary, Dennis.
Yeah.
Yeah. He runs this big benefit at the Boston Garden. Like, he was doing it once a year. Right. And, I started in Boston, and there's a moment in my young career where I was just starting out, where I was doing a guest spot on a show at Nick's Comedy Club in Boston, which was the big, and Boston guys are tough guys, right? So, like, I was just going to do a 10-minute spot. It was a big sort of break to try to get into the club, and I was following Leary. And I'm like, I'm just starting out, dude. And Leary goes up there. Even if he didn't do well, there's such a momentum to what he used to do on stage where it's like, this is a fucking nightmare. So I got to go up there. And I made the mistake. He brought me up and I made the mistake of trying to jump on his energy. And I bombed so hard that I can feel it now still.
Yes.
How hard.
Yes.
So anyway, this was just like not even a year ago. He's doing the Comics Come Home thing, and it's at the Garden, and I'm on the show with like 10, 12 other comics. And I'm thinking, like, great, man. Like, I got my chops. I got my game. I'll go, full circle. I'm going to fucking kill, And so I'm backstage, and I'm with Dennis. He's like, all right, so this is the lineup. And he's reading off all the names, like Pete Davidson was on, Tammy Pescatelli. He's reading 10 names. And, I'm like, when the fuck am I going on? And then, and this probably won't mean much to you, but he goes, okay, then it's going to be Bobby Kelly, then Mark, and then Bill Burr. And I'm like, why the fuck do I got to follow Bobby Kelly? Now, I got nothing against Bobby Kelly. But, he's of the area. He's profoundly filthy. And it's just going to be this symphony of filth that's going to destroy. Yeah. And now I'm like, God damn it. It's going to be like me going after Leary when I was just starting out. I'm going to have to put and it's the Garden. So I go, I'm not this guy, but I go up to Bobby and I'm like, what are you going to do up there? What are you going to do? Are you going to wear that? I'm trying to fuck with his head. Yeah. And then I go up to Burr and I'm like, why don't you follow Bobby Kelly? And he's like, I don't want to follow Bobby Kelly. I'm like, God damn it. So he goes up there, they've watched an entire show. It was fortunate, but I'll tell you the story. Pete Davidson went on earlier in the night. And now it was hit or miss, but Pete's a troubled but sweet and funny guy. Right. But most of the bit was about him trying to get his mom laid. He's talking about how his mom hasn't had sex since his dad died in 9/11, and he really wants he's trying to get her to, find somebody for her to have sex with. And then, in a sort of crass turn, he goes, I might have to do it. But he did okay. But it was early in the set, but he did okay. Right. So I'm waiting, and then Bobby goes on, and like, I can't even tell you. It was like the Celtics won the championship. Yeah. I don't even know what he was talking about, but he was having sex with his wife in a room where the ceiling was too small. There was, it was a huge, filthy symphony, and it just killed. And then Larry, I'm backstage, and Larry's like, "Don't worry, I'll buffer you. I'll buffer you." And I'm like, "All right." So Larry's hosting. He goes up there and decides that's the moment to talk about the cause, which is cancer. So he talks about cancer, for 4 minutes. He goes, "All right, you ready for more?" And he brings me up, and I'm like, God damn it. And I got up there and I just said, I always like doing these kind of shows. I get to see a lot of old friends, and it's not confirmed yet, but I was talking to Pete Davidson. It looks like I'm going to fuck his mom.
Oh,
and
amazing.
It killed. It got me in, dude. And that's
all you need.
The moment. That's the nervousness that you're talking about. How am I going to get in after that? It was an okay set. I held my own. It would have been better if I went earlier, but I did it, and I was relatively happy about it. But that's the issue of like, what's it like being on stage with whoever? It's really about that.
Well, and that's the thing of paying attention. Like you don't get that inspiration if you haven't been paying attention and listening to the people who came before you, right?
It's survival.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to, a room full of 20,000 people not laughing, that's a heavy silence, bro.
Oh, isn't it amazing the qualities of the different qualities of silence?
Oh, yeah. Some of them have suction to them.
Yes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like to people who don't do what we do, they'd be like, well, silence is silence. You're not hearing anything. No.
Yeah, there's a silence that won't go away.
Oh, how about the sucking, wet, drowning blanket of silence?
That's not meditative. It's just like the existential void. Yeah. And when you're doing that in front of people, but all that to say that with the acting, I'm still learning things. And with Stick, I knew who the guy was. There wasn't a lot of backstory. I put a backstory in, and we were shooting in pieces. So I was making choices. And I knew that the dynamic between Owen and I had to read pretty quickly as guys who have known each other for 30 years. We spent a little time together. I'm already, innately codependent, and I get him. So that worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
And the Springsteen movie you mentioned, this was kind of funny because the what's it called again?
Yeah, what is it called again? It's Deliver Me From Nowhere.
Deliver Me From Nowhere.
I mean, I know that's a small line in a song from Nebraska.
Well, it's about the making of Nebraska. And oddly, the guy who wrote the book, Deliver Me From Nowhere, about the making of Nebraska, this guy Warren Zanes, is a guy I had on the show, and also a guy I knew when I was in college, used to be in a band called the Del Fuegos with his brother. Great band. But he's a writer now. And oddly, and I found this out after, he was on my show, and the guy who produced the movie heard him on my show, and that's what gave him the idea to make it the movie, right?
Wow.
So Scott Cooper's directing. Scott Cooper's great. He did Black Mass. Did you watch that movie?
Yep.
Holy shit. He did that. He did Hostages. He did Pale Blue Eye. He did Crazy Heart. He's a real auteur. And I interviewed him, and I like that dude.
Yeah.
So he says, I want to put you in the movie. I'm like, great. So he gives me this little part. And I don't really read the script too much because it's months away. And in the interim, I did my first lead in an indie film, so I was the guy, right? And I did everything I could. I'm going to see a cut of that in a couple of weeks. I think I did all right. I think it's going to be touching, and it's a good movie. But the problem was, like, I get done shooting that, right? And I'm the lead in it. And then I'm supposed to go to Jersey to shoot the Springsteen thing. And I've got 5 lines. I'm in a lot of scenes, but not a lot of talking. And I'm looking over the script and I'm like, what the fuck, man? This is like an entry-level acting position. What am I going to go fly to fucking New Jersey to do 4 lines? I can't even make this my own, So I'm getting all diva-like. And I'm telling my manager, I'm like, why am I even doing this? It's just, there's nothing in this. And I got to the point, which I assume as an actor, starting out, you wouldn't do, where I text Scott, the director. And I text him, I'm like, dude, I'm reading the script over again. It doesn't seem like I got a lot to do here.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Scott goes,
I endorse it. 100% I endorse that behavior.
So Scott texts me back. He's like, hey, man, you don't have to do it. Well, we can do something else in the future. I just thought it would be fun. And I'm like, no, all right, you're right. Okay, so I'll do it. But the role is a pivotal role. It's just not a...
Who do you play? Who do you
engineer.
Play?
Chuck Plotkin.
Chuck Plotkin. I know exactly who that is.
Plotkin, yeah.
But for Springsteenophiles, that's a big character. Like, oh.
I know, but the thing is like, and he's pivotal. The movie is just about the making of Nebraska and his need to get it to sound like the cassette, and then ultimately not being able to do that and having to figure out a way to get the audio from the cassette, which is a small bandwidth, to the audio that would make a record was a real challenge at the time. And Plotnik was sort of essential in figuring it out. But like when I got there, this was the benefit of, I'm so happy I did it because I think it's going to be a great movie. Jeremy Strong is playing John Landau. Jeremy Allen White's playing Bruce. And I'm playing Plotnik, and we're shooting at the studio where they did this. So I knew my role essentially was I got to look like I know how to do this. And you're sitting in front of that board, and I got a guy who works at the place. But there's, I had to have the guy like, well, tell me exactly, how this affects everything. So I figured that out. And then I asked Cooper before I went out there, I said, look, man, there's not a lot of video on this Plotnik guy. How much do I got to go into figuring out, who he is or how he acts? And Cooper was like, don't even worry about it.
Right.
That's how little the part was. So no, but he said that's not essential. What's essential is that you've got to be in it and doing the job. And, and I did have, dialogue, and I was in the section in a lot of scenes. But the great thing about it was, and I had interviewed Bruce years ago. I did a pretty good interview with him. I went to Jersey and sat with him. So he knows me. And the thing is that the real Landau and the real Bruce were at Video Village every day.
Every day?
Every day, dude.
No.
All day. So we're in this little tight studio.
Oh my
and you
God.
do it, and you do a
shit.
take, and they'd go cut. And because I knew Bruce, I'm like, I'm gonna go talk to Bruce for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And he would, you could just go out there and hang out with Bruce.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Amazing.
But I was nervous when I had to do the first scene where I talked, because I don't know Plotnik, and I couldn't, I'm not. So I do that scene, the first scene, and they go cut, and I go into Video Village, and Bruce goes, "You got it, you're Chuck, you got it," and I'm like, "Well, that was fortuitous and kind of coincidental, Bruce, but I'm glad you think so."
That's so sick. I can't. It's funny. When it's a biopic about somebody I love, particularly a music one, I'm forgiving in ways that I would never be with any other genre or movie. It's like the Dylan movie. Literally, the entire plot is what guitar is he going to play?
Yeah,
literally, the entire movie is he going to play an electric guitar? Or is he going to play an acoustic guitar? It's not exactly riveting shit.
Well, but but that's an interesting form of biopic, and I think that the Dylan one is like that, is to find a story within the life of these, these journeyman performers.
Yep.
That, that has an arc of its own.
Yes.
So the sort of Dylan making the jump to electric,
yep,
that's the story.
Yep.
In this movie, it's like how, Bruce, hits a wall, goes through a dark period. He's about to do Born in the USA. He's got tracks that he's already laid down for Born in the USA, and he goes into a dark place. And he goes to that, rents a house in New Jersey, makes these what were thought to be demos on a home 4-track, and becomes obsessed with it and demands that be his next record. Like to the point where he's like, I don't want to be on the cover. I don't want to tour on it. I want this cassette to be the record. And that's it. That's what has to happen. And that's the whole story. So it's like a slice of a life, which I think is a better way to do a biopic than try to age the guy and everything else. And Jeremy Allen White, who I only had a little bit of scenes with, I was in the studio a lot with Jeremy Strong, who was in character, of course.
Okay, give me some Jeremy Strong stuff. Jeremy Strong from Succession. I mean, the if you haven't read it, read the New Yorker profile on Jeremy.
Well, he gets a lot of flack for being this kind of, methody, kind of committed guy. And, I think it's kind of undeserved. He's a very sensitive guy. He's a sweet guy.
I know him. He's great. I love him. He
wants to do his best job.
Yeah.
But what was funny though was is that this is what I learned, and I had interviewed him before, is that, and it was great for him because the real Landau was just, outside the door.
Right.
So if you needed a point of reference and he made an amazing sort of decision. There is something about acting on that level that is kind of interesting, but he would be in character as John Landau, but you could talk to him about Jeremy. You could talk to Jeremy about what he's working on or whatever, but he's going to talk to you as John Landau.
Okay, wait. I got to savor this for a minute. So you're Jeremy Strong.
Yeah.
You've got, and I know John Landau as well. I've known him for years. So he's in that slouch, that John Landau.
Yeah, he's totally in the accent, in the slouch. He's in the physicality and mentality of Landau, but he can talk to you as Jeremy. But he's going to be Landau doing that.
I wonder if it's just as simple as not wanting to let go of the accent. Because the minute
Sure,
you're
the
talking,
accent, the physicality, the space.
but does he talk about it in the? Here's so he doesn't say. If you say, "Where are you?"
Where are you going for lunch, Jeremy? He goes, well, I'm gonna, we're probably gonna order some food in, and you could. And we talked about, like, he was having a hard time deciding whether or not he should do those Dunkin' Donut commercials,
right.
with the Affleck and Damon,
right?
Because he ended up doing them, but at the time we were in the studio, he wasn't sure whether he should do them, how that would make him look, whether it was, going to compromise his integrity on somehow,
right?
And I'm like, yeah, but if you make fun of yourself, it'll be funny. And he's like, oh, yeah, I get that. And then he was like, it also would pay for my daughter's college. And I'm like, well, those are pretty strong reasons to.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty funny commercial.
It's
and
great.
I'm happy he did it. Yeah.
It was great.
But the other thing about him is that it was interesting because we're in this studio doing this thing, theoretically spending hours there. And, and Scott was really, Cooper, the director, was really kind of like created an environment where Jeremy could, do the work that he needed to do. And but at one point, Jeremy stops and he's like, he goes, wouldn't there be food around? Wouldn't there be food containers around? Like, he was literally in the game that much. Like, he's like, we've been in here for hours. Wouldn't there be like empty to go things everywhere?
Yeah, exactly.
And right, it was a reasonable question.
Yeah, that's totally reasonable. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we go out to Video Village and he asked Bruce and John, like, wouldn't there be food containers? And they were like, yep. And then Jeremy was like, well, what were you guys eating? And Bruce was like, it was like roast chicken and sweet potatoes. And so now all I knew from being on set was like, now some PA's got to go out into the fucking world and figure out where to get roast chicken and sweet potatoes. But they did it. And I have to assume it added a layer to the frame.
Wow.
But it's smart.
I can't believe Bruce and John were there every day.
Oh, it's great. It was great. It was because he's there. He was really on top of it. And the thing about, I was going to tell you, Jeremy Allen White, apparently, Jeremy Allen White did all his own singing and playing, and there were cuts where Bruce didn't know whether it was him or not, whether it was him, Bruce, or Jeremy when they did playback. Like, he nailed it. Yeah.
That is. You have two things that I'm psyched. Well, three, if you count the special. I mean, Stick, the special, and when does the Bruce thing come out?
I don't know, but it's got to be
next year,
soonish. It's got to be done.
Yeah, I feel like it would come out for Oscar consideration. So that means it's got to come out.
And I'm also, there's a documentary made about me that's going to be a Tribeca next weekend, and then that indie film that I was the lead in, they're trying to get that into Toronto, and I'm also in The Bad Guys.
Well, I rarely get nervous having guests, but I was super nervous to have you on because I want you to like me. I like you.
Well, the one thing you can always rely on with me is that the guy talks. I'm gonna talk.
I know. I love it. That's just wind you up. There are, and by the way, you've had guests where it's like, they don't have a lot to say sometimes.
It's tricky, dude.
And then you're a filler MF.
Yeah, I'll talk. I like to talk.
And you're good at it. This is great. I loved having you on. And
thanks, man.
If you ever take up golf and get even reasonably okay,
we'll golf.
Let's do it.
Okay, and watch the show. I think if anybody will like it, you're going to like it.
Oh, it's already, the archetypes of it are great. The washed up golfer running the scams, and I'm down. Between that and you could not design two things to be more in my wheelhouse.
Oh, good.
Than the Springsteen movie and Stick. You couldn't.
I think you'll like it.
You literally couldn't. Thank you, my friend, and we will cross paths soon. I hope this time, maybe on a set, we could be bored together in our trailers.
In our trailer. Oh yeah, that'd be fun to do a show together.
Yeah.
All right, Bob. Rob, take it easy.
All right, man. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Literally, sponsored by Lowe's.